So we had the press conference yesterday for Triple G versus Danny Jacobs. The two fighters went face to face, head to head. They got up on the podium and said their piece. And this is my reaction to it. I think both fighters looked happy, confident, relaxed. Triple G doesn't have the greatest command of English, so it's difficult to read much into whatever he says. But when it comes to Danny Jacobs, he looks to be in a great place. A lot of people, particularly at the announcement press conference, on the internet was saying that Danny Jacobs looked nervous, that he looked apprehensive and scared and what have you. Well, if this press conference is anything to go by and this face-off is anything to go by, I did not notice even the slightest bit of apprehension in Danny Jacobs. I didn't notice the slightest bit of fear or intimidation or anything in him. To me, he looks extremely relaxed, extremely happy, and extremely confident. He looks like a man who believes that he's going to go in there and actually pull off this upset. Now, there are a couple of interviews with Danny Jacobs where he says that he's actually terrified. But he explains that when he says he's terrified, that he is being sarcastic. His training camp and his sparring and so on and so forth is preparation. I'm paraphrasing now, but it's preparation for facing someone that is terrifying, for facing someone who is everything that the media and all the fans and the hype machine say that he is. So he's preparing for literally Godzilla. That's what Danny Jacobs is saying. And that's why he says I'm terrified, because I'm preparing like I'm terrified. But in actuality, the way I feel right now, I'm not scared of this man at all. And I'm very confident that I'm going to beat him. Great attitude for Danny Jacobs to have. He's going to need all that confidence. And the fact that he's preparing himself to walk through fire is very important, because you need to go in there against a Triple G and be confident, yes, but also be mentally prepared to get hit and get hurt and go through hell in order to secure the victory. So to me, his attitude looks fine. He looks very confident. And I have seen one or two Triple G fans online saying that they're a little nervous about this fight. And they hope that Triple G is not underestimating Danny Jacobs, because he's the kind of fighter who has the tools, at least, to be able to dismantle Triple G if he uses those tools effectively. There's one thing having the tools, and the next thing knowing how to use the tools. When you give a box of mechanic tools to Joe Blow in the street, he's not going to know how to fix a car. You have to know how to use the tools. So can Danny Jacobs utilize the tools that he has effectively enough to beat Triple G? That's the question that will be answered on the weekend. And I certainly think he's got the right attitude. Mentally, I think he's there. I don't, as I say, I'm repeating myself, see any kind of intimidation in him at all. As far as will Triple G underestimate Danny Jacobs, I don't think so. And one of the things which might be actually helping Triple G is the fact that he doesn't speak or understand English that well. Because if he did speak and understand English perfectly well, then a lot of this hype around him might be going to his head more so than it might be already. You know, because he doesn't understand what people are saying about him. He's just keeping his head down, and he's with his family and his friends and whatnot from Kazakhstan, speaking their language, and with his trainer, Abel Sanchez. He's probably quite detached from all the hype. I've made comparisons between Triple G and Mike Tyson in terms of the aura of invincibility that both of them have. I know Tyson's aura of invincibility was definitely a lot greater than Triple G's is currently, but still, with Tyson, he was an American, English speaking, and he was the heavyweight champion. So he garnered a lot more attention than Triple G generally. And because of that, Tyson really did start believing his own hype. And Tyson was a wild guy outside of the ring. Whereas Triple G, as far as I know, is a clean liver, a consummate professional. This is one of the things that you have to respect, or I certainly respect, about most of the Eastern European fighters. These people are consummate professionals. Now, there are some little rumors about Kovalev, but for the most part, the Eastern European fighters, and again, I've been corrected on this before, Triple G is not actually Eastern European, he's Asian. Kazakhstan is in Asia, not Eastern Europe. So forgive me on this, but I'm just, kind of throwing him in there with the ex-Soviet fighters. Let's just put it that way. Kazakhstan is an ex-Soviet nation. So one of the things with the ex-Soviet fighters is that most of them are consummate professionals. They are so professional. You don't hear about them getting involved in, nightclub situations, drinking, blowing up in weight between fights. It's fairly rare. You look at the likes of Klitschko, you look at Lomachenko, you look at what's his name now, Usyk, so on and so forth. These guys are really, really excellent professionals, and Golovkin fits right in with that. He lives, breathes, eats, sleeps, and defecates boxing. You gotta respect that. I certainly do. So with all that being said, him underestimating Danny Jacobs, I think it's unlikely. But Triple G has holes in his game, always has had. So has he addressed those holes? Has he been made to feel that he needs to address those holes in his game? In the David Lemieux fight, for example, and Lemieux is kind of a hot topic at the moment because he scored a devastating KO defeat over Curtis Stevens last weekend. In the Lemieux fight, Triple G really minimized those mistakes. He wasn't getting hit with silly shots. He was using his jab a lot, and he respected Lemieux's power. Lemieux is a tremendous puncher, a very wild and inconsistent puncher because his balance is all over the place and every shot doesn't land clean. Every shot doesn't land with him on balance to produce maximum power. But when he does get it right, as you saw against Curtis Stevens, lights out. And Triple G was very aware of this, so he made it a technical fight. He knew that David Lemieux had bad balance. He knew that David Lemieux was going to rely on Triple G engaging him with squared up shoulders, and that would give him opportunity to land. So Triple G said, you know what, I'm not going to give him that opportunity. I'm going to keep it technical. I'm going to pop a jab. I'm going to get a bit more side on. And I'm going to exploit this guy's mistakes, his poor balance, his sloppy technique, so on and so forth. Because he was concerned about that power that Lemieux definitely has. With Danny Jacobs, if Triple G decides to go technical, like if, say, he feels Danny Jacobs' power and says, you know what, I can't take any risks with this guy. I can't be as reckless as I was in the Kell Brook fight or a lot of other fights because this guy can hurt me. If he goes technical, that's going to play into Danny Jacobs' hands, I think, because Danny Jacobs is a taller guy. He's got the longer reach. He's got the faster hands. He's more mobile. So that's going to play into his hands. A lot will hinge on if Danny Jacobs is able to get Triple G's respect early. If he can, if he hits Triple G with something that makes Triple G get a bit more defensive than normal, then there really could be an upset on the cards. So we'll see. It's going to be fascinating, man. I can't wait for this fight. Actually, I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to be interesting. I'm still rolling with Triple G. I still think that eventually he has to land something on Danny Jacobs and land consistently, and that Jacobs' punch resistance will wilt under that kind of power. But an upset certainly wouldn't shock me at all because, as I've said maybe in this video, I can't remember now, but I certainly said in the previous video, that Danny Jacobs is bringing tools, a set of tools to the party, which Triple G has never seen in one fighter before. He might have seen some of these individual tools in different fighters, but never this collection of tools in one fighter. So yeah, an upset wouldn't shock me at all. And this is why I like the fight at the end of the day. If it's a mismatch, if it's a fight that I think is only going to go one way, I'm not really going to be excited for it. But this is a fight where I think Triple G is going to win, but I do believe there's real danger there for him in the form and the shape of Danny Jacobs. So definitely looking forward to this one. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about this. How did you think that both fighters looked at the press conference? Did you, like me, see confidence in both of them? Did you see complacency in Triple G? Did you notice anything like that in his body language? Do you think he may be underestimating Danny Jacobs? Are you concerned about that? Do you think Danny Jacobs has the ability, has the tools to cause Triple G a lot of problems, possibly pull off the upset? Let me know in the comment section, people. I'd be very interested to read what you have to say. All right? It's happening. I'm out.